Hey everyone, this is Siddhant and welcome back to Let's You Shorts. Wow, it feels like I'm doing this for the first time all over again. I have the same insecurities I had when I released the first episode of this podcast. Will people find this valuable? Is my voice sounding okay? What if people are using this podcast to fall asleep? I myself fall asleep listening to podcasts every day, so the fear is real. Anyway, insecurities aside, let's dive into today's episode and let's cue that good old Let's You Shorts intro music. Alright, there's something incredible happening in the world of F1, and we have Apple to thank for it. Well, not all of us, but people living in the US have Apple to thank for it. Let me explain. Apple will be broadcasting the 2026 season of F1 in America, and they are giving Americans quite an experience. And no, I'm not using the word experience lightly. Apple isn't just thinking about broadcasting the races, they're embedding F1 into the Apple ecosystem. Let's unpack this one by one. Number one, Apple Music. You didn't think I was going to start with music, right? Really, what does F1 even have to do with music? Obviously, apart from the banger F1 theme they play at the start of each race. I have the volume on max when that is happening. But apart from that, F1 and music, nothing really, right? Okay, hold on. I forgot about Carlos Sainz's Smooth Operator. That song has made a comeback into my life, and how? But really, anything else apart from that? No, right? Apple, though, is doing something very interesting. They are legit getting F1 drivers to curate playlists for listeners. I'm not kidding, but at the time of recording, Isaac Hajar's playlist is already out. What are these playlists supposed to be? The drivers are curating the music they like to listen to during their warm-up, the music they like to listen to get themselves going, to get their focus in, to hype themselves up. Apple has legit arranged for you to listen to what the drivers are listening to. So next time you see a driver with a headphone on, you know exactly what they're listening to. This is quite a creative idea. It is bringing the fan an inch closer to the sport and to the athletes in a way they've never experienced before. And you know whose music taste I'm most interested to find out? Valtteri Bottas. I think it will be the most uniquely eccentric concoction of sounds, and I'm here for that oddity. And remember, these playlists will only be available on Apple Music. Could a diehard F1 fan switch loyalties from Spotify to Apple Music as a result? You never know. Oh, hold on, there's another unique thing they're integrating into Apple Music. They will stream live race commentary on it for those who are on the move and aren't able to catch the race live. It's quite thoughtful and not something other broadcasters have integrated yet. How could they? Not everyone owns a radio station. But Apple does, and they're doing it. Let's move on to number 2, Apple Fitness Plus. So Apple does a series where they get famous personalities to become your walking companions. These famous personalities narrate stories to you while you get your evening steps in. As part of their push to build F1 culture, they've got Yuki Tsunoda to do an episode where he walks through the F1 circuit in Texas, taking the listeners through the track and also his own journey in F1. It feels like you're walking with Yuki around the F1 track while having a candid conversation with him. While this is just one episode, Apple can make this so much bigger. Imagine episodes with drivers at their home tracks. Imagine drivers telling personal anecdotes about every turn of the circuit. Imagine Max totally not wanting to do any of this and trying to wrap up the episode in record time. Who would not like to listen to Charles Leclerc while he takes you on a stroll through the streets of Monaco, telling you where he grew up and how the streets turn into a racetrack every year? It's like Apple is building an F1 ecosystem which is beyond the live racing. And this world is not limited to Apple's own initiatives. They are very deliberately trying to bring you closer to the sport. So if you listened to Yuki's walking episode, you will be offered Jay Shetty's podcast where he speaks to Lewis Hamilton, or the Smartless podcast where the trio speak to Daniel Ricciardo. Wait, hold on. Does that mean Apple could make this episode part of that ecosystem too? Wait, is that the entire reason I've come out of a 4-year hibernation to record this episode? You never know where the motivation came from, but here we are. Let's move on to number 3. Apple Maps. Yes, the map you literally never use. I think you need to be some kind of a psychopath to use Apple Maps over Google Maps, but that's just me. And who knows, this might change with what Apple is doing for the F1 fandom in the Maps app. Now, usually maps would just help you reach the location. So basically, you could use maps and reach the Silverstone circuit in Britain. But what Apple Maps has done is they have mapped out every single element inside the circuit as well. The idea is to help fans navigate once they reach the venue. It can take you to your seat, show you where the nearest restroom is, where you can buy merch, where you can go for emergency services, where the paddock is, and pretty much everything you could think of. Now, as a broadcaster, Apple really did not need to do this, but they are. Because this helps them become closely associated with F1. And this might help them in their long term vision of becoming global broadcasters. And because they simply can. Which other broadcaster has a Maps app? And you'd think this is just for fans who are attending the race in person. But they have a little something even for those who are not attending. They're turning every circuit on the calendar into an immersive 3D experience on Apple Maps. It's like experiencing the circuit on your phone. For the F1 nerds, every single corner is labeled with statistics about that corner. It really is giving the fans so much more than whatever existed before this. Whether it's the maps integration or the music integration, Apple is giving people what they did not even know they wanted. Like, I did not know I wanted to listen to Isaac Hajar's warm-up music, but now I really, really do. And that's exactly what Apple has been doing for decades, giving people what they don't even know they want. Remember the Steve Jobs philosophy? The customer does not know what they want. Alright then, let's move on to number 4, your iPhone's home screen. Apple is bringing F1 to your home screen. Think of it like widgets which give you live racing positions, lap timings, who's leading, gaps between drivers, and this is insane visibility. According to me, there's no bigger real estate in a person's life than their home screens. And widgets are a very underutilized tech from the supplier side. I mean, it's quite terrible. I can think of so many use cases for information and data that I would like on my phone screen, but developers aren't really creating enough. Even F1's own F1 TV app does not have any of these features. Apple is building an ecosystem around F1 outside of the broadcast, and I have fallen in love with it. Don't get me wrong, they have some exciting stuff planned for the broadcast as well. And I'm sure there'll be bigger things we'll discover as the season progresses. Actually, let me get into a few of these now. So, on Apple, when you're watching F1, viewers can view 4 different cameras on the screen at the same time. So imagine watching the main feed, your favorite driver's feed, and the pit lane feed all at the same time. F1 needs these many screens to really absorb what is happening. The usual stuff like ability to listen to every driver's team radio obviously exists. There's a view which will give you live data on things like lap timings, tire wear, gap between drivers, a whole lot of other information. But here's the interesting thing about Apple. They are not gatekeeping the broadcasting. For example, they know that F1 fans need to hear Crofty's commentary while watching the race. I mean, that's the only way I know how to watch the race. So Apple will let you tune into Sky's feed anytime you want. I mean, is F1 even F1 until you hear Crofty scream, lights out and away we go? Or is F1 even F1 until you hear Sky's bias towards British drivers and their eternal hate for my favorite driver, Max Verstappen? Okay, before I go on a rant, let's get back to Apple. Apart from this, Apple is also bringing 5 races to IMAX screens. Yes, imagine Hamilton in a Ferrari revving past Russell's Mercedes to take the lead in Silverstone while Crofty screams and through goes Hamilton, and all of this happening on a giant IMAX screen, and you're watching it with 100 others who are losing their shit at the same time. Wow, I get the point of sports bars now. But before you get dreamy, let me bring you back to reality. 1, this is only happening in the US. And 2, for some races, this will happen at 6 a.m. in the morning. Now, I love F1, but I'm not getting up at 6 a.m. to go to a movie theater. But that's not the point. The point is that Apple is thinking way beyond its broadcast. They're really turning watching F1 into an experience. They're doing something real for the fans, and they will win a lot of hearts over the season. Now, if you're Tim Cook, winning hearts won't be as satisfying as winning subscribers will. But if there's one thing I've learned building M.O.M over the years, it is that there's nothing more powerful than building a community. And that it takes time. It's a slow burn. But boy, when it works out, it is worth the wait and it is worth the patience. And Apple is playing the long game. Remember, their end goal is to broadcast F1 globally. And to that effect, they're also partnering with Netflix. They are legit giving Netflix the right to broadcast the Canadian GP. Netflix is their direct rival. Netflix themselves had bid for the rights to broadcast F1. So why is Apple doing this? Now remember, Netflix has 300 million users. Apple has only 40 million. Netflix already has a thriving community of F1 fans via Drive to Survive. Apple wants to milk some of that. By giving Netflix the Canadian GP, Apple will get to tap into those 300 million subscribers and give them a taste of Formula One racing. But I don't think that's the real reason they gave Netflix a race. Apple is getting one more thing in return: the latest season of Drive to Survive. Yes, it is currently streaming on both Apple and Netflix in the US. Apple knew that to become an end-to-end destination for F1, it has to have Drive to Survive. I mean, that show is the entire reason why anyone in the US watches F1 in the first place. So if you're catering to an American audience, you have to have DTS. There's an alternate view to this as well, as to why the Canadian GP was chosen as the race to give to Netflix. That same weekend, the Indy 500 is taking place in the US. By giving Netflix the race, Apple is hoping to take away viewership from the Indy 500 to ensure that F1 is the only motorsport Americans are watching that weekend. Now, none of this is verified and is only speculation, but it does make for a good story. Now, somewhere along the line, I lost track of the numbering of my points, but I do have one last thing to share. And this could be big if it plays out how I think it might play out. It involves the Apple Vision Pro. No, don't go away. Stay with me. Please do. Now, I know everyone hates the Vision Pro. The sales did not pick up. It's dying a slow death. But not for Apple. They're still trying. And they think F1 can help them revive sales for the Vision Pro. And they're doing this by integrating the F1 broadcast into the Vision Pro. So imagine wearing the product. You look straight and you can see the main race. You look left and you can see Verstappen's on board. You look right and you can see all the race data. Basically, it allows you to switch screens and switch cameras by simply turning your vision left and right without pressing or tapping a single button. And there's a bigger use case which in my opinion can only work when Apple wins the global rights. And that is a 360-degree view of the race from the driver's seat. Apple can't set that up currently because they will need to put their own cameras on the car for that. But you never know how that might change if they're the global broadcasters. And then you could use your Vision Pro and watch the F1 race straight from the driver's seat. You can move around with the driver, look in the rear, and get the actual thrill of going at 200 miles per hour. Now, this could take years, but it is not that far off. And if anyone could do it, it's Apple. Apple is building something really unique here that is not easily replicable. The closest someone comes is Google, who could use a crossover between, let's say, their Android phones and YouTube to create the kind of ecosystem Apple is creating. But we all know that YouTube wants to stay far, far away from streaming sports. So it really is Apple alone. And they're leveraging their unique capability quite thoughtfully. When most broadcasters buy streaming rights, they do just that. Stream the game. Maybe add a pre and post show. Maybe add a few new camera angles. But that's about it. Apple is building a fandom. They are making the fans the centerpiece. They are making it easier to understand the sport, to follow the sport, to get to know the drivers, to get to know the history of the sport, to make it easier to watch the sport in person, to integrate the sport into your daily lives, and finally, to make F1 bigger than it already is. That's all for today, folks. Now, I'm going to say something I've never said at the end of an episode, but I'm told that I should. So, If you liked the episode, please share it with your friends. Please tell them about Let's Do Shorts. And please come back next week for a brand new episode.